Okay, call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, August 7th at 5:15.
Commissioner Ernst,
Here.
Commissioner Engel,
Here.
Commissioner Rollins. Commissioner Vogelsang is absent this evening, and Commissioner Wright.
Here. Thank you. Okay, any changes to the agenda tonight? Nope. Public requests, we will open it up to the floor.
Some people might want it off, but I'll start over. Sil Ciliberti, 6200 Northwest Second Avenue, Boca Raton, Florida. North Park East, 6 acres. It's a tremendous opportunity for all the applicants that submitted their submissions. I've been a real estate broker for 30 years, a CPA for 23. And that location in the state of Florida, South Florida, in East Boca, east of 95, is just one tremendous piece of property. Although not all are a match for Boca Park, for North Park East. Tennis, there's an Everett Tennis Academy by Chris Everett. It's a training school in Boca. There's the Rick Macy Tennis Academy in Boca, both well-established, top-notch facilities, both in Boca. YMCA, they offer a wide variety of many various kind of noisy activities that can almost guarantee will meet strong resistance from the local community. It tries to serve a variety of indoor, outdoor, wet, dry activities, and it might be fun to sing the song, you know, but it brings a carnival of characters to its doors. Padel. Padel is a relatively niche sport in the US. North Park East needs to be a hit. I think we can't take a risk on having something mediocre. It brings us to the Goldilocks zone of pickleball. There's a defined shortage of pickleball. More importantly, there's a huge public deficit of indoor pickleball. The full-time residents of all ages find it dangerously painful to do outdoor activities in the summer. Yet 6 acres is a lot of space. So I would suggest, in lieu of a little of the profit sharing that's probably going to be negotiated along with the indoor pickleball, some sound absorbing trees, shrubbery, vegetation around the perimeter of a remote section within the 6 acres for some absolutely free outdoor pickleball at the North Park East section. Noise blocking plant life, large evergreen, broadleaf trees, thuja green giant, holly shrubs. A single small area can be shielded from disturbing the neighbors. You drive up and play. It's free, kind of like some basketball courts. I learned at 18th Street, which was, there was no sign up, no paying. You just went up and played, which I'm glad because I stunk. I came from a sport that didn't transfer very reasonably easy. It was difficult and I didn't want to even be seen there, never mind pay for it. So I think a little outdoor free activity would be great within the bounds, as long as we can contain this noise. Indoor activities such as pickleball is a win-win-win. The business wins, the beach and parks fulfills the needs of the residents and increases the prestigious value of Boca Raton with indoor pickleball. It's good, better, Boca, not good, better, mediocre. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Evening? Yeah, okay. Larry Milky, 6200 Northwest Second Avenue, Boca Raton, Florida. I have two questions here tonight. Back in the middle of July, I'm the security border guy there on Boca Chica. I'm all worried about my security of the property. In the middle of July, I sent an email with a picture of of what I think would look nice. I sent it to Brianne, but you were on vacation, I guess, and everything, I got the instant reply, but I didn't get back. So I made a special trip down here. And I have the letters. I don't know if I can approach the bench or whatever and give you the stuff. Fences and put some shrubs in front of it. For the audience, I don't know if you're familiar, Hidden Valley Road over by Boca Chica, they're putting up new fences over there by that apartment complex. They're white, like wrought iron type fences, something like that effect, where chain link is no good because you don't want them climbing up and so on and so forth. So that's hand delivered today. And number two, did we ever pick a name for the park? North Park. Okay. All right, good. All right. Thank you.
A quick response on the fencing. The design team is working on it, so they have a fence perimeter. So I sent this to them. They haven't picked a fence yet because they're working with the city on what they would allow. But this is in the consideration. We're just looking at the cost of all the different types of fences and the best thing for security. So I want you to know it is sent to them and it's being part of consideration.
Okay, no problem. Like I said, I knew the vacation was going on.
Anybody else?
Okay, ready to speak? Good to speak. I'm Raul Travieso and I live at 1037 West Royal Palm Road. Commissioners, I'm not here to ask for anything. I feel a sense of collective relief. So, in fact, I wish to thank you. I wish to thank each of you for all the work you do for the community and for the beautiful parks you build for the residents of Boca Raton. Due to your leadership, innovation, and diligence, our city parks are pristine and have the finest facilities, fields, and equipment. With your vision, Boca is known as a place to live, play, and recreate. Sugar Sand, Patch Reef, and the Swim and Racket Center are your diamonds, and they are all staffed by polite and helpful employees. The first time I spoke at a district meeting was in September of 2016, when I asked the commissioners to consider building dedicated outdoor pickleball courts. Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Vogelsang, and Commissioner Engel were on the board back then, and they looked at me like I had three heads. At that time, we were only playing on one court at Sugar Sand indoors twice a week. In terms of pickleball, everyone on this commission has been very supportive, and you truly have listened to us and recognized the skyrocketing growth of the sport. We feel very lucky to be able to assist you and provide input when you ask, because our counterparts in other cities do not have the support, or the working relationship we have. At this time, I wish to shout out a special thanks to Brianne and Melissa for putting up with us for the last 7 years. They both have done such a wonderful job to help the pickleball community. Due to their planning and tenacity, we are one step away from putting Boca Raton on the pickleball map. The pickleball complex you are going to build at Patch Reef will be world-class. At this time, I just want to take a second to also thank my friend and sidekick, Art Turple, who has done a terrific job in a short amount of time of promoting and expanding the sport of pickleball. His help and advice has been immeasurable. In closing, I wish to again sincerely thank you, Madam Chair, Wright, Commissioner Vogelsang, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Ernst, if you can see me, and Commissioner Engel for all your commitment and dedication to provide the residents of Boca Raton with the finest public beaches and extraordinary parks. We simply stated, you all do a great job. We appreciate it and we thank you.
Well. Anybody else?
My name is Harold Chaffee, 6200 Northwest Second Avenue. I'm the president of Keep Golf in Boca. I'm very excited tonight to basically see what you really have planned for that corner. You know, we hope it's probably going to be a beautiful thing. You always do everything that's right. The only thing I just hope that it can be done, that we don't have any opposition from the city or anything else that could come along the way, you know. But it's like anything else, just test the waters and see what happens. All right, thank you.
You?
Hello, my name is Robert Ducape, 5351 Northwest Third Terrace. I'm here tonight to talk about the North Park, formerly known as Ocean Breeze or Boca Chica property. First of all, I want to thank you all for the initial purchase of that property and saving it from developers, as you have done with other properties that you own. I can tell you that one of your proposed recreating items that you have on your plans for the northeast section of the property was a off-road bicycle project. And I can tell you, as I have said before, that these types of facilities are typically in a non-residential area, as illustrated by Markham Park, as well as Jonathan Dickinson State Park, which have a big difference between what you have there, as well as what you will have under your proposal at this particular site. These bikes will be coming on the roadway, and I can tell you that that'll make a big difference. There are no bike lanes anywhere along Northwest Second Avenue, and the biking apps that many people use actually designate that as a hazardous or unsafe area to be biking, since there are no bike lanes there. So I would certainly encourage you to check with the city ahead of time to make sure that this safety issue would be fine with them before making it into your plans or spending significant amount of money. The other issue that I've talked to you about in the past is your charter, and your charter not allowing you to lease, sell, or convey property, and your attempts to having a private-public partnership, whether or not that will actually violate that. There are some legal questions whether or not that will violate that. And I would hope that you would contact the state of Florida Attorney General, who gave you that letter a few years ago, indicating that you were not allowed to do that under the terms of your charter, so that you don't spend more money trying to get this RFP process to go through. If it goes through, that sounds like it would be a good improvement, but I think that one of the things that is sorely needed in the area there on the corners of Northwest Second Avenue and Jeffrey Street is a community center. A community center is what was torn down, which was officially known, I guess, as the hotel. Half of that property consisted of community rooms. And right now, Boca Chica has nothing in that area and can certainly be used not only for Boca Chica, but for people like Hidden Valley and many other areas within the city. It could be open as you have done with Sugar Sand Park. So again, I think that there are other avenues of things that could be used on that site. And lastly, I think that hopefully on the 21st, when you have your meeting jointly with the city, we'll get some input and have some cooperative efforts or some better communication, because so far you spent almost $2 million on architectural planning for this property. And I know some of that wasn't directly your fault, because obviously you had the golf course planned and then the city changed their mind. But again, I think that hopefully better communication between the city and the Beach and Park District will help resolve some of these issues. So you won't have issues like you have the pickleball courts with the City Environmental Advisory Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Carl Foster, 131 South Federal Highway, Boca Raton. I head up Foster Events Group. And I want to thank, first of all, the Beach and Parks for being supportive of the Boca Masters out of Patch Reef Park. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the tournament we brought a couple years ago. We've ran 2 successful tournaments with over 1,000 players and spectators at Patch Reef Park. And we're working on developing our 3rd annual coming up this coming January, pretty soon. So we appreciate the support of the pickleball community with Raul and Art. And we're 100% in pickleball. We do Inside World Pickleball, a national TV show. We also own a professional pickleball team, the Boca Raton Picklers. As you haven't heard, my partner, Rick Redemar, and we play at Chicken and Pickle across the country this first year. So we have firsthand experience of being and playing indoors. And the community rooms you were talking about, they've got a couple of large rooms for corporate outings and family outings, a lot of games. And they're one of the people that are bidding on the project here, putting an RFP in. So we're here just to support Chicken and Pickle from the standpoint of they run the MPL leagues and our teams and franchise. We're heading to Wichita, Kansas next week. We were in Oklahoma City, 2 of their locations in Dallas. Kansas City will be in San Antonio next month, and then our championship at their newest facility in Glendale, Arizona. They just finalized a big deal over in Estero on the other side of the state. So we feel that Boca Raton will be a great home for one of their locations with indoor courts, covered outdoor, a lot of community. They're talking about a dog park, the walking trails, and really making a recreational cornerstone of Boca Raton. Everything they do is first class. We've seen it firsthand. They've got a great operation. They make sure that safety is there with all the children and families. We walk inside, outside, doesn't matter what the heat is. They've got the beanbag games. They got the some of the other games, but the pickleball is the cheese that brings the people in. And the growing sport of pickleball, the only thing faster than pickleball right now is indoor pickleball. So we know pickleball is the fastest growing sport, but indoor pickleball, they just opened up the first pickle mall up in North Carolina. And pickle malls are growing across the country and a lot of the retail places that aren't. So I think it's a great opportunity. I've been in Boca since 1983. I played golf on the golf course. I mean, I stayed in a hotel with friends when the hotel was there and the restaurant was there. So I've seen, as you all have, we've seen a lot of changes over there from Boca Chica to Ocean Breeze. And we actually did some charity golf tournaments over there. So I would love to see an opportunity here for a family, a community atmosphere of pickleball where you can enjoy from 8 to 80 playing at a Chicken and Pickle with the plans that they have. And we're just firsthand, if you've not been to one, it's worth going to. So it's we're speaking firsthand experience there. That's just everything they do is first class. So that's what we're just offering that as our support for that project. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you on the pickleball courts.
Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Hunt. I represent the YMCA 6631 Palmetto Circle, South Boca Raton, Florida. I just wanted to come and say thank you to all the commissioners for giving the YMCA the opportunity to program the James A. Rutherford Community Center in Patch Reef Park. This summer, we were able to serve our community by serving an additional 100 plus children in 9 weeks of summer day camp. As our YMCA has met its capacity with as far as camp space, having Patch Reef Park, the James A. Rutherford Center, helped us to continue our mission by impacting more individuals in our community and providing them a safe and comfortable environment for parents to go to work and have a safe place for their kids. And not only does it provide the day camp atmosphere, but it also gives a resident camp feel as well. And I want to give a special thank you to Brianne and Melissa and the team. You guys have been amazing to work with. And as we wrapped up camp last Friday and all the campers went home, all of them were saying, we can't wait to see you next year. So as we close the doors for summer and are planning our programming for the school year, we are also planning our 2024 summer camp season as well. So I just wanted to come and say thank you to all the commissioners and thank you to Brianne and your team. You guys have been amazing to work with. Thank you.
Much. We saw some pictures and it looked great. So thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. Anybody else? Online. Anybody online wants to speak, please raise your hand. Okay. We will close public requests. We'll do approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting held on July 24th.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins.
Yes.
Commissioner Wright. Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, regular business, number 1, Sugar Sand Park Community Center roof replacement change order. Brianne.
Commissioners, on page 6 of your agenda packets, there's a brief memo. This change order is for the roof project at Sugar Sand Park. There's some additional work that the city is going to require us to complete this project. This would come out of the contingency money, so it doesn't actually expand the price. So we're just looking for an approval tonight of this as proposed here in your packet. Just a motion and a second and
Discussion? Nope. Joanne.
Okay, Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, number 2, the employee healthcare renewal. Brianne.
Commissioners, page 8 of your agenda packets, a brief memo, the healthcare that we are currently providing to staff. There is no increase in the rate, so we're just asking for approval tonight for the same plan as proposed here in your packet.
Make the motion that we approve the renewal proposal of the employee healthcare plan. And the pricing is found on page 9.
Nope. Joanne.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright. Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Number 3, the racket sports facility proposals.
Commissioners, on page 11 of your agenda packets is a memo. I also want to thank legal counsel for helping me put this memo together to make sure it all made sense. Just outlining the submissions that we received in the process as outlined in the RFP. And I put some proposed dates in here for how we could go about tackling this. So I just wanted to open the discussion up tonight and talk about the next steps. And if these dates if everybody's good with these dates, we'll just move along and get it scheduled. But if you want to talk more about it, we're here. And I'm going to probably have Sam answer most of your questions.
Well, the first item I think is that, so we're accepting all 5.
You're accepting all 5, correct? It's just a technical deviation, not a.
Madam Chair, if I can quickly, the memorandum specifically speaks to the technical irregularity. It's a matter of public record in that regard. They were otherwise timely, and the board has the ability legally to and discretionarily to essentially waive that irregularity, which if you accept all 5, you will have by your own action accepted that irregularity and added them to the mix of 5. Yes. If you could, or otherwise just make sure that the record reflects that you're including the 5th proposal, which was on the record, Camp Pickle.
Okay. So is everybody okay that we include all 5? Yeah.
If that's the will of the commission, I'm fine with it. My concern, though, is that we're setting a precedent. I know that we're talking about like 6 minutes. But I don't want this to be construed. I mean, that's.
The part of it was, which I talked to Jacob and Sam about, it was actually on time. It just wasn't submitted according to the,
My concern is that this is not construed as a precedent that we will waive requirements every time we have an RFP. This is a one-off, and people should understand, the public should understand that a one-off is a one-off. We're not going to do this again. So that's my 2 cents.
I can't disagree with Steve. You know, when you put out an RFP and you specify, you know, the appropriate protocol and then you relieve that by allowing someone who did not, 'cause I think it was more than just a timing issue. I think there was some documents that were required to be submitted too, were they not, Brienne?
Yeah, so to clarify for everybody here, Camp Pickles submitted submitted a proposal for this RFP. They submitted it to me via email at 11:54. They were due at 12 o'clock. So time-wise, they got a submission in on time. However, the specs require that you drop off 2 signed copies as well as an electronic copy on a USB. I prefer not to get them in emails prior because I think it jeopardizes things. But they submitted the paper copies the next day. But they did submit a proposal before 12.
Yes, so long as we're not establishing a precedent, so this is something that could be anticipated, because that's the first time we've made an irregular decision like this since I've been on the commission. Sam, are we legally able to make this without establishing a precedent for future RFPs that are released?
May I respond, Madam Chair? It is not an irregular decision. It's a regular decision for an irregularity, which is being called for by virtue of the timing issue. So if it would be more useful for the record to reflect your ultimate decision, I would suggest, Madam Chair, that you consider a motion to accept the 5th proposal as a separate item. So it gets into the mix of 5 to the extent that the board would otherwise support the motion. I believe that it's consistent with the statute. I believe that you have, under the terms of the RFP itself, the ability to waive certain irregularities. And there are some facts here that may be different than any other RFP response you've seen before. And because of that fact, and I think your concerns about having a one-off, non-precedential decision-making issue, this might be that one where there may be a basis to suggest that it is a one-off. If it were purely a timing issue, if it was purely a situation which has happened in the past, it probably would have been rejected for having not been timely. That's not the case. It was actually, in the context of deliverables, it was timely. There were some other components of that which allowed this board, through your public discretion, to make a decision that would otherwise waive it and allow it to be added to the mix or otherwise. So, to answer your question, the answer is I believe it would be lawful for you to still include them in the mix so long as you sought to include them. My view would be by motion.
Going to go out on a limb and move that we accept the Camp Pickle RFP with the proviso that this does not affect our ability not to waive any provisions of our RFP protocols in the future.
As much as this is was somewhat of a minor technicality and lawyerese, I can't repeat what Sam said, but I support his position on that, and I would second the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any further discussion, Craig?
I have no
You're in.
objections.
Okay. Joanne? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Cool. Now that we know all 5 are included, the next step would
So-
be,
So the next steps would be on August 28th, which is our next regular meeting, because on August 21st, we have the joint meeting with City Council. So on August 28th, the idea for that meeting would be that you all would evaluate based on the proposals as they were submitted and rank them. And then at that meeting, you would decide if you wanted to interview all 5, interview your top choices. If there was anybody that you could eliminate right away, we would discuss it at that meeting. And then on September, I'm recommending September 11th. Obviously, I don't know everybody's schedules and I didn't know when I put this memo together. But if September 11th works, I'm recommending a separate meeting where you would call them in for interviews to do a Q&A and presentation. So just some.
okay, so the 28th would be the rankings, and then the 11th would be,
Yeah, the 28th we already have on the
Presentations.
books. Because that's our regular meeting. So that would be, our agenda topic was ranking. And then September 11th would be a separate meeting. We don't have a meeting scheduled that night.
Mhm.
That would be a meeting just to interview and listen to.
Okay.
Presentation.
Madam Chair, I have a question. And maybe that's the way the RFPs were prepared, but normally in the past, when I participated in this type of an activity, we had the interviews first of the applicants and then actually ranked them after the interviews rather than the reverse of that, because there may be some information that comes to light in the interviews that may affect the ranking. And by ranking them like that, it really doesn't mean that's the way they're going to shake out, right? I just had preferred the interviews and then ranking them, and then the selection is done at that point, rather than having it go on to another meeting.
I did write this out in the RFP according to this, but Sam, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think at the next meeting, if they do start talking about it and discuss them openly and decide that they want to interview all 5, they can at that point, yeah.
You all can still. That's and the RFP provides for that, correct?
You know, I think in the interest of fairness, that's probably the appropriate way to go. I mean, there's, in looking at the information that Brianne had summarized on those, the applicants, you know, are generally ranked fairly evenly throughout the, you know, if you were on the point system that was prepared. I mean, if we're obligated to do it in the reverse based on the way the RP was written, you know, I'll yield to our counsel on that. Sam?
That you have the control over your RFP, it does provide you with some discretion, however, in the context of how you want to provide for evaluating the proposers and then interviewing them in some form or fashion. So if there's a different, although consistent with the RFP way to do what you're trying to do in the context of being fair and open and providing for a full review, you have that opportunity this evening to make that decision.
Well,
If the preference is to actually interview and then rank, and that's not that's the typical format of how things are done. And you've done this in the past. You also have the right not to interview. You have the right not to do so. It's not required in the context of your own rules and policies and the state requirements as well, which you've also done in the past.
To try to eliminate any ones that we weren't interested in interviewing.
If I can go back to when I wrote this RFP, I think that was the initial plan because we didn't know if we were gonna get 30, if we were gonna get 2.
Right.
So
So is it the consensus that all 5 should be interviewed and then ranked? Is that what?
Census, but that's that was my preference, you know, to do it that way. Yes, and the fact that, because I wouldn't want somebody to feel like they were ranked number 4 or number 5 and then not show up, and absolutely, if had they done that, they may have changed their position.
I have to go along with Bob on this. If we rank them and then interview them, we then would have to re-rank them based on the interviews. So if we interview and then rank, we've cut out a step. And I'd like to see this completed sooner rather than later. But also, I would like, if it's doable, and Sam, I defer to you on this, I would like to see the RFPs shared with the public for their input, or if we can't, so,
Legally confidential.
okay, so we have,
Under state law.
is that 30 days from receipt or, okay, so that would put us in
Monday would.
August 21st, we can release it to the public. I'd like to get the public's input. I'd also, if the 21st would be a perfect time to share it with members of city council to get their input. I want this process to be as transparent as possible so that nobody can come back and say, hey, you know, you guys, yeah, you held the meeting, but you already made up your mind. I want to hear from the public. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, good, bad, or indifferent. I may agree with you, I may not agree with you, but let's find out. That's all I want to do is, you know, get as much public input and be as transparent as possible.
Conversation with Commissioner Vogelsang, and with Sam's permission, I'm just going to weigh in on her thoughts. She was also supportive of interviewing all 5 candidates.
Input on this?
I'm supportive of interviewing all 5 candidates.
Is everybody amenable to having a separate meeting to do that on September 11th, just to give people time to travel? Is it Baxis? We have our joint meeting on the 21st, a regular meeting on the 28th, first public hearing on September 5th. A lot of meetings.
So that's really
It's
the
good.
first available. But
Yes, yes.
It's good with me.
The 11th also.
okay, so we'll do interviews, no rankings, until after the interview process is over. So you'll let them know.
Madam Chair, to the extent that you acted consistent with the RFP and you've actually characterized how best to approach the process and to be transparent, I would suggest a motion on the floor to set the meeting for the 11th of September, subject to calendaring and scheduling. And the intent by that motion would be to interview all 5 in accordance with the RFP as well as accordance with state statute.
So moved.
That motion include after the interviews after the interviews are concluded and the individuals interviewed will be ranked.
That's the
At that-
that'd be your
at that-
second.
Patients?
Why not? I mean, just be a
I
lot.
don't know, I'd like to be able to think about the presentations a little bit afterwards and then rank them on the 18th. Come in on the 18th and have them ranked. That's my preference. Up to you all.
Gentlemen, we're trying to get to a consensus here.
Hold on a second. Let me take a look here. Yeah, we already have a second public hearing for a millage rate on the 18th and a regular meeting. If it's at all possible, I'd like to do it on the 11th. I understand, Aaron, that you might want to think about it, you know, walk away and come back and, you know, try not to do it and not do it in the heat of the moment. But I don't think time is on our side in this case.
Well, are we gonna have time to get public comment at that meeting? As well?
Trying to remember how we've done that in the past, but I think that we did.
end,
Yeah,
yes.
at the end. I'd like to propose a friendly amendment to Steve's motion to allow for after the interviews to immediately rank the participants.
Second as amended.
So I second the amended motion.
Can I weigh in on it?
Yep.
My only question to you is, look, I'm supportive of having the ranking right after, but do you really want to box yourself in just in case you need more time? Because this is a complex transaction and you're going to need, you know, we're committing to one group or another to invest a significant amount here. And as Mr. Decate indicated, there's several things we need to check with the city. And so maybe some of that will come out in the joint meeting. But do you want to have yourself kind of boxed in that you're going to rank it and then we can rank it, but are you going to actually award the business on that day too? That's just, I'm just trying to be flexible. And so I guess I would kind of turn to Sam to say, is there any benefit to waiting that extra week, or does it matter? And do we need more, a little more, is there going to be some questions that we need to address out of that?
May I respond, Madam Chair? Ultimately, the decision is yours. And ultimately, the decision is going to be made in public. And whatever you may think after the September 11th interview process would have to be aired during a meeting at which you will actually publicly make a decision. So if you want to make it that night or otherwise defer to think about it for some period of time, your decision is still not yet made until you make it in public and you make it with the consensus of your colleagues by majority vote. So it's really up to you how the process would be implemented.
So if we just went forward with, you know, the meeting on the 11th with the goal to rank them on the 11th, we could do that. And if we get through the interviews on the 11th and we don't feel that we can rank them, or there's some other additional information we need, we could push it to the following week.
That's to me, that's an acceptable compromise. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
can you amend the motion?
I would amend the motion to allow for us after the interviews and the ranking, if we decide not to rank and wait for further information, that we are able to do so.
So Madam Chair, the objective in the motion would be to potentially leave open the option of deferring the ranking on the 11th to a later date, which could be confirmed so long as you are comfortable to do so, and by appropriate motion defer to that later date. Clearly, sounded familiar.
All right, do we have a second? Okay, Joanne.
Yes.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Wright. Motion passes 4-0.
Okay. Joint meeting agenda discussion.
Commissioners, on page 13 of your agenda packets, you have a list of agenda topics. I sent an email out to all of you at the last meeting that the city council had, city council workshop. They asked to add a discussion about the Children's Museum onto this agenda. So right now we have the Parks and Recreation Citywide Conceptual Plan, which we've all discussed independently, that, you know, if the city has plans to move recreation downtown, where's that going? What's happening with phase 2 as we start working on our parks? So it's a conversation really just conceptually, so that we're all on the same page with what's happening in recreation, and we're not building parks and they're building parks and kind of missing some things in the middle. The second topic was a project update on Boca Chica, which would be a great time to share that we have these proposals with them and solicit their input and maybe even their attendance at that meeting. The third topic, if we could just, the microphones pick up on the audience, so they pick up when you guys are talking, just for the people online so they can hear. The third topic is the CRA, and that is to talk about the city's plan to extend the CRA. They deferred that until after our joint meeting, so we added that to the agenda topic. Obviously, extending the CRA is detrimental to parks and recreation in the city for what we spend money on, which is the majority of recreation in the city. So the fourth topic, the Children's Museum, came up at the workshop. The city had approached us previously about taking the children's museums. I think in our individual conversations, everybody was open to it as long as they were willing to pay for the operation and maintenance. When I proposed that, the conversations ended. This is back on the agenda to talk about at that meeting. I think that their plans of where they were going to move it aren't happening as easily as they would like. So they're doing a feasibility study. There's a lot to go into the whole Children's Museum conversation. So those are the four topics. Just wanted to, this is your last chance to talk about any other topics that you want to have on that agenda. I'll turn it over to Madam Chair now.
Input on those four items.
I think that's going to be a long enough meeting with the topics there, if they're explored in full detail. And I would think, Brianne, as far as the, you know, if the city determines it's not feasible to move the Children's Museum, let us know so that we might substitute something else. Because I think the issue on that is the upkeep and the maintenance of it, is the expense of moving it, and whether or not there's space in the environmental part of our park for that that facility. Because I don't know where you I'd want to explore where we're going to put that as well ahead of the meeting, so that if it's something that we have no space for, because we do have about 65% of the park is environmental.
I don't want to go to another environmental advisory board for a while, so.
Yeah, well, I know that we do have, these certain areas that are designated as environmental. And, when we were looking at putting the carousel in the northwest corner, we were told that that was environmentally sensitive. And when we agreed to move it, the city also at the last minute said, I don't think you can put that there either. So Don Capron said, we jumped from one lily pad to the other, and they removed the lily pad we're going to land on. So I just want to be sure that we get all those things documented if we're going to talk about the museum relocation.
There a discussion on this?
Yep.
Greg?
Yeah, one item I was gonna, it's not on here and I wanted to propose adding it is Patch Reef, the barrier-free park, and earlier this, I guess last week, there was a question, why did putting the question out, why did we all join the board, and doing a little write-up on it. And one of the reasons I got on this board and became more engaged on it was just some of the time it takes on things. And, why does a playground have to be closed for so long? And, our history so far of anything we're doing is just in a insurmountable task of time to do things that just makes no sense to a common person. So a simple walkway on Ocean Strand, I get it. There's some environmental sensitivity, but we wanted to put a path down there, something that hasn't been opened. And even this pickleball center that we're dealing with over at Patch Reef, I'd like to see this done in my lifetime. And to think that we're going to get something down at North Park or Ocean Breeze is just, to me, we need some level of priority. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I think our board will unanimously agree, since Steve proposed it, a barrier-free park for the family who needs it. The family who kind of came to the table and said they need it, I think there's a ticking time for their son, Jordan. And I just don't see this being such a big, long, drawn-out process to make it so difficult. If we're paying for all the consultants who seem to do all their work, can we just, put that at the top of the list as something that we can all agree to should be a priority for the community to get done at a expedited basis? And maybe that could be the model for other park renovations that are being done. So all I'm asking for is to add the Patch Reef barrier-free playground, which needs to be redone. We'll do our due diligence and get the right consultants and everything. I think it's all underway. But when it comes time to city review and city input, that can we all agree an expedited time frame and possibly waiving of some of the permits and fees? Because all that permits and fees, maybe we could pay it in a lump sum or something, but it's always kind of coming back and forth. Oh, you need this to be paid for. You need a check for this. Well, we have a process. We only meet twice a month, just like they do. So we're all in this for the greater good. And I think the city council would agree with our team that we want to get this going forward and we need to speed it up. There's got to be a better way. And I think Patch Reef barrier-free park is something we can all agree upon, that it'd be nice to add that to the agenda and have them kind of put in an expedited mode. That's my thought.
Especially because of the timeline that we're dealing with too. We want to see that project finished so the child can enjoy it.
Okay. Anything else? Nope. Okay. The agenda for the joint meeting And the final item is the budget discussion.
Everybody good with the budget? Kidding. I'll give you a little more than that. On page 14 of your agenda packets, along with Merv, and I want to thank Merv for all of his help. He is once again traveling and making me jealous because it'll be a long time before I travel again. We put together a budget with the proposed millage rate, which is our current rate of 1.08. And all the projects were included that you all discussed, all the projects from the city, the O&M leaves us with about my contacts are a little fuzzy, but 3.3 million in reserves for any additional projects, overages and things like that that come up. So it's where we're at now is a solid budget, a lot of allocated money. 10 million will be allocated then for North Park. So we'll have that money set aside when it's starting the site plan approval process. So the wheels are turning on that. We have the pickleball court project. That's a big one, the roof design. So all these projects were included in this budget, as well as setting up a reserve fund to pay off the bonds sooner. Our CRA payment, which I say with, not much love for that one. Yeah. And then we set aside more money for beach nourishment. So everything is included, current millage rate, and we have sufficient funds to cover it all. If there's anything else that anybody would like to change in the budget, we have just one more meeting in August that I could prepare another budget. If anybody wanted to see a different type of scenario, I could do that. Our first public hearing will be September 5th.
Having sat down with Brianne prior to our last meeting where we did discuss it and some of the areas where we had concern with, I think I shared with Craig on some of the O&M expenses that were being charged, the overages that they haven't, but there were some minor things in there that really were city policy that we can't change. But the projects that we've looked at here and have amply covered with a sufficient reserve there that we have for anything that might come up, like the natural catastrophe, if we can get through, because we have pretty good property exposure out there from a storm. And so I think the reserve is adequate. I think the budget has been refined to the point where I'm satisfied with it.
I'd like, in the best of all possible worlds, I'd like to see a little bit more in reserves, but it's certainly livable, and the budget covers everything that we want to do. God bless you. So I think we're in pretty good shape here. I don't see any problems with the budget, all things being equal.
I agree, consistent with everyone else and consistent with our prior discussions, the budget is, it's a full amount. My only, thing that I think we have to be cautious of is, our joint meeting with the city council. If we may want to ask Brianne to look, just make sure the Patch Reef Park barrier free is priced out accordingly. There might be some adjusting here and there, only because if we all agree that will be a priority, we need to make sure it's sufficiently funded. And there may be some mixing of the priority, balancing of the priorities with the city. That's it. But we should be able to do everything within our existing budget.
Okay. So we don't need a motion or anything, we're just reviewing. Okay.
Making it easy tonight.
All right. So approval of payroll and invoices. Craig?
All right, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval of payroll and invoices in the amount of $1,612,986.29.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, reports and discussion items. Director Harms, you want to go first?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm glad that Brian came from the YMCA tonight. I just sent an email out to all of you on Friday. I wanted to share that, a voicemail that was left also just to, I know because of my own personal experience, and I actually saw the camps out there over the summer when we visited a couple times to look at the, pickleball project. Somebody left this voicemail and I thought it was really cool just because people don't ever say when you're doing things well. They're very quick to tell you when they don't like what you're doing, but not necessarily so quick when you're doing something right. So the person left the voicemail and said, I was at Patch Reef Park and wanted to tell you how impressed I was with all the counselors and specialists. They were so on target watching the kids and just taking care of them. I was a teacher and I also work with special needs kids in preschool. So I just wanted to tell you that it was wonderful to see and you were all doing a great job because they were so well trained. And I just wanted to highlight that because I think it stands out. They also brought their special needs camp to Patch Reef Park. So that was a lot of kids out there enjoying the summer and making those memories. So it's good to see that. On the note of Patch Reef Park and pickleball, it's my favorite subject these days. We didn't get the seal of approval from the Environmental Advisory Board, but we did get it from Planning and Zoning. So the project, the land use now will go forward to City Council for approval, but the site plan is done in its approval process. So we're getting the bid specs together and we'll get that out. And I want to thank the pickleball community for showing up to Planning and Zoning because they said that that was the most people they've ever had at a Planning and Zoning meeting. So thank you all for coming out and showing up. And I also thank Melissa for doing her presentation. I unfortunately had to speak a lot at the environmental board. I didn't even have to speak once at the planning and zoning, which was great. The tower project and on the note of moving permits through for families who have been waiting for these things, the permit is in review with environmental. So we're waiting for that to get pushed through there. I don't know who the environmentalist is now at the city because their previous one has left the city. So we'll follow up and see. That may be something to add on that we would like to see these things prioritized because that family has also been waiting for a very long time to honor their son. The new divider at the field house has been delivered and it's going to be installed August 14th through August 18th. And then I am going to make Commissioner Rollins very uncomfortable right now because I have to read a message that Commissioner Vogelsang sent to me. I'm not even going to look down there because I don't even, so let me find it. Okay. It's an honor to get to read this message and it's an honor, I think, for all of us. I think I can speak for everybody to sit here with you on this dais because you do a lot in the community beyond this board. So this past weekend, Commissioner Rollins was honored at the Florida Youth Soccer Association's annual general meeting by being inducted into the Hall of Fame. This honor is a true testament to his dedication and hard work over several decades as a champion for the sport of soccer, not only in Boca Raton, but also throughout the state. He has overseen the insurance matters as he does so often for the district, and he has served tirelessly for the treasurer of the Sabre. There is no one I know more who deserves this recognition, and I'm humbled to have called him my friend for many years. Congratulations, Bob. And that was Commissioner Vogelsang. She doesn't have great Wi-Fi right now, but I wanted to, I knew you were going to say that. Can we see the next picture too? She even shared some photos from the event. There we go. So congratulations, Commissioner Rollins. Thank you for all you do for our community. I'm just the messenger.
He needs to turn on his mic.
That's it? Okay.
Madam Chair, two quick updates, if you will. We did issue a title opinion to Brianne. You've not seen the copies of it, but not having closed the transaction that was closed back in 2018. The good news is that the district does own the property at North Park and will so certify to that and provided our legal opinion about it as an adjunct to doing some additional work with the Lake Worth Drainage District as required. Number two is that we advise you that the temporary construction easement issue at Ocean Breeze We did notify JJ Morley of their default, and within days thereafter, there was communication between our office and their lawyer, and now further communication with Brianne, who is coordinating actually with them with regard to the repaving obligation under the terms of the easement, as well as the landscaping issue, and a landscaping plan is under preparation, I believe, by us for them. And we have their attention and certainly look forward to having a cooperative closeout with them with regard to paving and landscaping, having completed everything else that was needed to be done on that site. So we thank you for your direction and your guidance at the last meeting. And it was successful in the context of getting their attention and getting something hopefully done in the near term shortly. Ocean Strands.
Ocean
Forgive me,
Strands.
forgive me, yes. Yes, very pretty. But at the end of the day, Brianne, thank you for your coordination with that as well. We have nothing else to add except to say thank you for the time and attention always, and appreciate your discussion about the RFP process, which I know is something which we all hold near and dear to us in the context of transparency and compliance with state law and your own rules, policies, and regulations. So thank you for that opportunity very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Bob. Yeah.
I had a question arise from an adult that was using one of our rectangular fields. I think must have been over at Sandpine Park during a lightning storm. The game that he was participating in was abandoned for that length of time. And I know all of the parks have a ThorGuard system in the park, but I don't know why the staff would allow individuals to continue playing when I know there's the ThorGuard has gone off. And so I had a statement from the youth sports package that every sport has to sign, and it just says use of the park at your own risk. And it gives the information about the ThorGuard, about the warning, and it says this will signal the suspension of all park activities. So my question is, if it's making a statement in there that this will signal the suspension of all park activities, why the park rangers allow those activities to continue? And the city's recreation statement says outdoor activities sponsored by the Recreation Services Department. First bullet point, discontinue all activities. And I know from my days when I was playing golf, if you were on the course and the ThorGuard goes off, you're instructed to return to the clubhouse or seek the nearest shelter. I don't understand why, I think it was, I'm not going to name the sport, but Patch Reef, they continued to practice even though they were under a lightning alert from the ThorGuard. Either these organizations don't get the message about their responsibility, but if my child was out there on the field and was injured in with a lightning strike, I don't think that this is going to be a certain enough indemnification to prevent them from having a major litigation. So my point in bringing this up, Brianne, is I'd like for you, if you could, to explore with Greg Stevens, either having their rangers do their job and going out there and they may not be able to run the people off, but they could certainly say that the system has gone off. You should stop your activities and then resume it once the horn goes off. I think there's 3 blasts. But I think that we need to be proactive. Lightning is in this area and it's a very dangerous, and even on a clear day, you can be struck by lightning. And that's what the ThorGuard system does, is detects those particles in the air that are conducive to a cloud to ground strike. And I'm just concerned that we're getting passive about it by being allowed to continue to play on those fields when you're under a lightning alert. It just lends itself to more, you're getting lax in your precautions to protect your kids. And, if the adults are stupid enough to do it, that's one thing, but the parents, the children out there are following the lead of of their instructors, their coaches, whomever, And I just think that we need, I stopped by, there is a sign there at Spence River. But it's one of these things that's so obvious that people walk by it all the time and never stop to read it. Because, I was there when they said, well, what is that horn? Well, that means get off the field. And then when it blasted, they go, well, what does that horn mean? That means it's all clear, when you blow it 3 times. So I think we just need to do a better job of getting the message out about that. And I would think the park rangers should be the first in line to go out there and say the park is closed, we're ceasing activities, and I'll bet you that would work. But anyway, so,
Patrick.
both,
It was both, okay.
both. It was both. There was some tryouts going on another American football program over at Patch Reef, and all 3 fields were engaged. Same thing over at Sand Pine. I guess there were some tryouts going on that little short field over there. But I think it deserves to be looked at, and I doubt that the sports groups even know of their responsibility, how it's pushed back on them to make the decision. I haven't investigated what our particular policy is in the soccer association, but I know with the referees have very clear instructions. If there's not 30 seconds between the flash and the bang, then you wait 30 minutes before you resume play. That's pretty basic. That was in place before we had ThorGuard systems. And initially people objected to putting ThorGuard in because if they were worried about the failure of the system. Well, they're pretty effective. And the problem with them is they see these things go off when they have blue skies and there's no apparent weather threat. But that's the time you have to be very concerned about it, because we had a fatality over at Lake Wyman under those same circumstances. So sorry to take up so much time, but thank you.
We've been out there, and it's the soccer goes by ThorGuard. Once that goes off, you go under the building, and they stay under the building. But the park rangers, they're not there telling people to get off the field. I haven't seen them as often as I should see them telling people to get off the field, especially if there's kids. Very important. Like if the adults choose to stay out on the field, they choose to stay out on the field. You can't make them get off, but you can recommend they get off the field. But the kids should definitely get off the field for sure. Yeah, Steve, you're up.
Touch on this. I was at Patch Reef about a month ago, and the ThorGuard went off, and there was a basketball game going on. The park ranger walked over to the people playing and said, you need to get off. The lightning alarm went off, and their answer to her was, and I could hear, I was within earshot, don't worry, we're good. And it's troubling to me because I'm sure, God forbid, had any one of these players been struck by lightning, their family would have been in touch with an attorney almost immediately, and we would have been held liable. So there's 2 parts to this. One is that there was only one park ranger. One is what I just spoke about. 2 is that there was only one park ranger on duty. And it would be helpful if there was a second park ranger who could maybe lend a little bit of a voice of authority. And I have to say this, it's unfortunate, but the park ranger on duty was a middle-aged woman, and we still have a problem with men who think women don't have a voice. Ergo, the situation, we're good. Well, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. Okay. Well, it depends. Right, but I also don't want to be, I don't want the Beecham Park District to be held criminally liable for their stupidity. Yeah.
And I think that's the best we can do. And it's up to people to make those smartest choice to get off the courts when it's time to get off the courts. you
Yeah,
know?
agreed,
So-
but I just thought I'd throw my 2 cents in. Another thing that I want to mention is at long last, we have the sign at Ocean Strand. Thank you, Brianne. So that leads to my next question. Are we going to have a ribbon cutting?
I gotta get this asphalt repaving coordinated and I don't want to miss a window. So let me see if I get a date for that first. I don't want to have to reschedule that because of the ribbon cutting, so.
The last thing, Bob, congratulations. Well earned, well deserved, and a long time coming.
Okay, go.
Well, first of all, look, on the prior discussion on Thorough system. I agree with everything that was said. You can't get the people off, you can't get them off, but you can push the park rangers. What I would say is I'm fully supportive of some kind of automated solution, where the city has a park closed to send a text message out. That's what really would help everyone. I think they would understand some of the education of it, of 1 blast off, 3 blasts is clear. The biggest challenge I have, even taking my son to Meadows Park, is knowing whether the park is open or closed because the system is going on and off during the summer. So it would be, I think, a good thing there are softwares out there that are very easy to manage, to just say it's open or closed in the windows and set things up, but it'd be nice to support that. On the but we'll get there, and requiring it's really the city to run it. So let's not get in the way of how they're doing it. They will have a solution. I think Greg will be brought to his attention to just kind of push it with the staff to go forward. Lastly, after visiting New York City and seeing their pickleball facilities, we are behind the time. Raul called this thing back in 2012. And, man, they have converted a whole section of Central Park from tennis to complete pickleball, and it was all filled. And if you go out to the different, I forgot the name, it's like dock areas where they have these soccer fields and pickleball centers out there on these I don't know, out towards Brooklyn. It is very impressive. They've did the most they can with space, and the conversion has been pretty quick. And so, I just say we have a great opportunity in front of us to continue on with the pickleball and build it out at Patch Reef. I'd say that's a no-brainer. We keep on going with that, but let's not forget making some things available for the public, because the beauty of El Rio Park is it's free and it gets a good turnout there. So it's got to be managed. You need the beginner, intermediate, and high level. So look forward to working with you more to implement it. That's all I have.
Thank you. I have nothing tonight, so Steve?
To adjourn.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel, Commissioner Rollins, Commissioner Wright.
Yes,
Motion passed.
we are adjourned.